To terminate effective immediately. Kamal Woods. Trustee Needham. Yes. Trustee Arnold. Yes. Supervisor Pro Tem Lindell.
Here's a refined version of your text with improved clarity, coherence, and structure. In a stunning and sudden move that has left the town of Dalton buzzing with speculation, Tiffany Henyard's lover was abruptly fired with little discussion and just 3 votes in favor. This unexpected decision signals a dramatic shift in the power dynamics within her administration, raising immediate questions. What prompted such an abrupt action and what does it mean for the larger power struggles happening behind closed doors? Was this a case of justice, or is there a deeper, more complex issue at play? Henyard, already shaken by ongoing controversies surrounding her leadership, has suffered yet another blow. The firing of her lover appears to unravel the delicate web of political maneuvering that had been tightly woven around her. While this may seem like just another personnel change, it feels like something more, a pivotal moment in a much larger unfolding crisis. The timing and circumstances of this dismissal have created a tense atmosphere, leaving many wondering whether this move was a calculated attempt to protect Henyard's standing or a sign that cracks within her administration are widening. Could this shake-up expose further flaws in her leadership, or is it a betrayal from within, an attempt to cover up deeper issues that have plagued Dalton under her watch? The suddenness of the decision, coupled with the lack of prior discussion, has sparked numerous theories among residents. Many see it as either an act of desperation or a tactical move to clear the air amidst the growing turmoil surrounding Henyard's tenure. Whatever the true motivations, this latest development raises even more questions about the stability of her political future. Has she lost control of her administration, or is this a strategic effort to shift the narrative? The sense of chaos surrounding Henyard's leadership is palpable. Dalton, once hopeful for revitalization under her administration, now grapples with the fallout from a series of questionable decisions and scandals that have eroded public trust. The firing of Henyard's lover has only intensified this disarray, leaving residents to wonder if there's more to the story than meets the eye. Was this an effort to avoid growing controversy, or is it a sign that her administration is finally collapsing under its own weight? As more details emerge, it becomes clear that this decision isn't just about one person's dismissal. It reflects broader issues of leadership, loyalty, and power struggles that have been brewing for months. Henyard, who once prided herself on controlling the narrative and making strategic appointments, now faces the consequences of her actions. Many see her latest move as a desperate attempt to maintain some semblance of authority over an increasingly unstable situation. Accusations have long circulated that Henyard used her position to place loyal supporters in key roles, consolidating power and ensuring unwavering allegiance. However, as the political landscape shifts and her influence wanes, even those closest to her appear to be turning away, perhaps in an attempt to preserve themselves amid mounting public scrutiny. The firing of her lover may indicate that the pressure is becoming too great for Henyard to manage. She may now be willing to make sacrifices to stave off further damage to her reputation, but what does this mean for Dalton's future? Is this a final attempt to clean up the mess left in her wake, or is it simply a sign of leadership crumbling under the weight of its own excesses? The situation remains unclear, leaving Dalton's residents to wonder how much longer they will be subjected to the turmoil unleashed by Henyard's administration. As her once tight grip on the town loosens, the community is growing restless, demanding accountability. The firing of her lover may have been a necessary step for Henyard to distance herself from her controversial inner circle, but it is unlikely to quell the growing unrest. If anything, it further highlights the deepening rift between Henyard and the very people she was elected to serve. The question now is whether she can regain control of the narrative and restore some semblance of order, or if the fallout from her actions will ultimately lead to her undoing. As investigations into her financial dealings continue and public pressure mounts, it remains unclear whether this latest move will salvage her political future or serve as the final nail in the coffin of her leadership. Dalton's residents, once hopeful for change and revitalization, now find themselves questioning whether their town will ever recover from the damage done under Henyard's rule. Tiffany Henyard's sudden firing of her boyfriend has raised more questions than answers, casting a long shadow over her already controversial administration. While many initially saw his position within Dalton's government as another instance of political favoritism, the timing of his dismissal now suggests a far more significant and potentially troubling development behind the scenes. The abrupt decision to sever ties with someone so close, someone deeply embedded in her political circle, raises suspicions of internal fallout or mounting political pressure. Why, after months of scrutiny, has Henyard decided to make this move now, especially when Dalton's government officials remain silent on the matter? The lack of transparency only fuels speculation, and residents are growing increasingly curious about the true reasons behind the firing. Was this an attempt to cut off a source of public outrage stemming from her administration's financial mismanagement, or is it a desperate move to deflect blame and mitigate damage to her already crumbling political career? Some question whether this is a calculated effort to distance herself from scandal, but the decision may be far more complex than it appears. By firing someone so closely linked to her leadership, Henyard risks exposing even deeper flaws in her management of Dalton, flaws that may soon prove impossible to ignore. For months, residents have speculated about the role her lover played in her decision-making process. Now, with his dismissal, questions about his involvement in financial transactions, political dealings, and questionable employment practices are bound to escalate. Did he have access to sensitive information that could expose further wrongdoing? Was he complicit in the financial mismanagement or hiring scandals that have placed Henyard under intense scrutiny? The decision to terminate him raises even more questions. While some see it as a way for Henyard to cut ties with controversy, it could just as easily backfire, intensifying scrutiny and strengthening public determination to uncover the truth behind her administration's failings. The sudden firing of Henyard's lover has sparked intense speculation, adding yet another layer of uncertainty to an already volatile political landscape. While she has faced criticism for months, this latest decision, widely viewed as an attempt to relieve political pressure, could have deeper implications than initially apparent. This was not just a routine personnel change, it marked a significant shift in the balance of power within Henyard's inner circle, signaling potential turmoil at the core of her leadership. The timing, coming after prolonged scrutiny, only heightens suspicions about what's truly happening behind closed doors. Some believe this move is part of a larger damage control strategy, while others suspect Henyard was pressured into severing ties with a close ally to protect herself. The firing has fueled speculation of internal betrayal, raising questions about whether key figures in her administration have finally pushed for accountability. As financial mismanagement, legal challenges, and eroding public trust continue to weigh down her administration, Henyard's political future appears increasingly uncertain. Whether this move was meant to distance herself from scandal or if it signals a deeper unraveling of her leadership remains to be seen. One thing is clear: Dalton's residents are watching closely. The fallout from this decision could set off a chain of events that ultimately determines Henyard's fate. As rumors swirl and public confidence erodes, her decision to fire her lover may not be the solution she hoped for. It may, in fact, be the beginning of an even greater crisis. Tiffany Henyard's leadership in Dalton has once again come under intense scrutiny after the sudden and controversial firing of her boyfriend. The unexpected decision, made with minimal discussion and just 3 votes in favor, has sent shockwaves through the community, raising serious questions about the stability of her administration. Was this an act of accountability, a desperate political maneuver, or a sign of deeper fractures within her inner circle? For months, Henyard has faced mounting criticism over allegations of financial mismanagement, questionable hiring practices, and a leadership style that prioritizes loyalty over competence. The abrupt dismissal of someone so personally and politically tied to her only amplifies suspicions that turmoil within her administration is escalating. Many residents wonder whether this was an attempt to shift blame, distance herself from growing scandals, or appease critics who have been calling for greater accountability. The lack of transparency surrounding the firing has only fueled speculation. Some believe it is a calculated move to protect herself from further fallout, while others see it as a reaction to increasing internal pressure. Regardless of the motive, the timing is crucial, coming at a moment when Henyard's authority is already being questioned and public trust in her leadership continues to erode. This decision has left many in Dalton asking, who is really in control of the town's government? If this was an attempt to steady the ship, it may have backfired, further exposing the cracks in Henyard's administration. Her once tight grip on power appears to be slipping, and residents are growing increasingly restless. Calls for accountability have only intensified, with many fearing that this is just the beginning of a much larger unraveling. The question now is whether Henyard can weather this storm, or if this firing will mark the beginning of the end for her embattled administration. The people of Dalton are watching closely, demanding answers, and as the political landscape shifts, Henyard's next moves could determine not only her future but the future of the entire town. The fallout from Tiffany Henyard's decision to fire her boyfriend has only deepened the crisis surrounding her administration, raising more questions than answers. What may have been intended as a strategic move to deflect criticism has instead fueled even greater suspicion about her leadership and true motivations. Residents and political observers alike are beginning to question whether Henyard's control over Dalton's government is slipping beyond recovery. With investigations into financial mismanagement, public unrest, and growing scrutiny of her leadership, the stakes have never been higher. Dalton's future hangs in the balance, and the question remains, can Henyard weather this storm, or is this the beginning of the end for her tenure? Despite her attempts to shift focus by dismissing her boyfriend, the situation continues to spiral. The public's demand for transparency is only growing louder, with many residents no longer willing to tolerate the mismanagement and lack of accountability that have defined her time in office. In a town already grappling with financial instability and widespread distrust in local government, Henyard's every move is under a microscope. The timing of the firing has only intensified speculation. Was it a calculated attempt to shift attention away from an expanding list of scandals, or was Henyard forced into action by mounting internal pressure? Regardless of the motive, one thing is clear: her ability to control the narrative is slipping, and trust in her leadership is at an all-time low. This is a defining moment for Henyard's administration. Every decision she makes moving forward will determine whether she regains control or accelerates her own downfall. With investigations continuing and new revelations about her financial dealings and leadership style emerging, the pressure is only mounting. Can she navigate this crisis and restore public trust, or will her tenure crumble under the weight of growing opposition? The coming weeks will be critical as Dalton's residents and officials closely monitor her next moves. The frustration in the community is palpable, with protests and calls for her resignation intensifying. Whether the firing of her boyfriend was a desperate attempt to salvage her political standing or a last-ditch effort to protect herself from further scrutiny remains to be seen. However, one thing is undeniable: the situation is becoming more precarious by the day. The scandals, investigations, and demands for accountability are not going away, and until Henyard directly addresses them, they will continue to haunt her administration. This story is far from over, and the residents of Dalton are determined to get the answers they deserve. Stay tuned, because this political crisis is still unfolding, and the fight for accountability has only just begun.